Like in football terms, if you can tell the other team like, hey, we're going to run this play, and you get the yards that you're going to say you're going to get every single time, you can't stop it. Like that's what you want to kind of create in business.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hausman. Joining me today is a brand new rock star. Super excited to dive in today. He's a fractional CMO and CRO. He's a founder of Boulder Media Company, Javier Lozano. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Kirby. I really appreciate you having me on the show. Just excited to have a chat and share some value to your audience.
Yeah, man. In learning more about you, I was like, I think this is going to be a really fun conversation. So
Nice.
Let's dive in. Like, you've helped scale a tech company from just over $1 million to $20 million in 4 years. What were the first systems or decisions that truly unlocked that scalable growth? That scalable growth is what we all say we want, right?
Yeah, and it's scaling is kind of like the holy grail, obviously. And so, there's a couple of things that took place here. So the first one was, when I went in, we were just over about $1 million, if that. And there were a lot of great things going well for the company, but then other things that were kind of broken. And one of the big pieces was our founder was really excited that we were getting $2 and $3 leads. And most people that are seeing that, they're like, wow, this is great, this is exciting. And then when you lift the hood, you kind of start seeing what's underneath the hood. You start realizing, these $2 and $3 leads aren't really necessarily the most ideal customers that we're looking to close. And so what was happening is that we were spending quite a bit of our funds towards Google Ads, which was bringing in a wrong demographic. And so what we saw is that about 80% of our marketing was going towards Google, while about 20% of marketing was going towards Facebook. But those Facebook leads were actually converting at a higher clip. And we were paying probably $12, $15 per lead for those, but we were getting better calls. We were getting better conversations, better follow-ups, better follow-through, all of that. So like things that sales teams like really want. They want those opportunities to talk to these folks. So I decided, after kind of analyzing everything, I decided to start making a shift here and start taking all of our ad spend from Google over into Facebook. And we did that slowly over several weeks. It was not something that we just kind of like flipped the switch. And so what we ended up doing is eventually, when I first came in, we were probably generating for like every 100 leads, maybe about 15 of those folks were actually in our ICP. After we made the full transition and everything was kind of, moving over, we started seeing a 60% of our leads actually be in our ICP. And eventually it was about 95 to 97%. So for every 100 leads, 95 of those people were literally in our ICP. Now,
Wow.
Mind you, like, it's not always perfect. It just depends on how people go through a form and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, like what this did is that it proved to us that we had a system that we could actually start kind of dialing in better. The other part that we started doing is that we started kind of designing more of we didn't really have SDRs because our team was small, but we were getting a ton of leads coming in. So we started designing a system on the back end that would automatically send out text messages and emails. Now, these aren't marketing emails. These are literally emails coming from Tom's inbox, introducing himself as, their rep or whatever, they have questions, and then an actual text message. The purpose behind this was to actually kind of like get them while they're hot and get some hand raisers so that whenever our sales team was going through their list of leads every single day, they basically weren't going to be kind of, wondering like, who should I be calling? Who should I be going after? They see hand raisers, they start putting their focus there. So really by like creating looking at what was really working and what wasn't, and then creating a system to make our team more optimal as far as who to go after, really allowed us to start scaling and creating that floor.
Yeah, you've got my wheels turning. I've heard about, I think all of us are wanting to get the cheapest leads, but it's usually not the cheapest leads that lead to the best return. And I think that's a great distinction you made for sure.
Yeah. And trust me, it was an uphill battle with our CEO because he's like, do you really want to spend more money on these leads? I'm like, yes, because my sales team is going to love us. And that's what happened. I mean, we had, guys that were closing an average of 20 deals a month. And then all of a sudden we got it, after tweaking, they were closing up to 100 in a month. And so like, you can tell commission checks were really pretty at that point.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty excited. So
Yeah.
you've mentioned leading 4 distinct go-to-market motions. That's intriguing to me. So how do founders know when it's time to evolve their go-to-market motion versus simply execute, the current one better?
Yeah. That one's hard because we all want to kind of like offer a whole bunch to everybody. That's just kind of a
Yeah,
natural thing to do.
yeah.
And really what we started focusing on was just getting this floor. So like as the system that I kind of, mentioned previously, it was getting the floor to where we would start creating predictability. So here's the best example is that we were averaging roughly a ROAS of like 8 to 1, which is unheard of in some. And then some people, like at some cases, we would go as high as 15. The whole purpose behind this was to essentially kind of create some sort of like, hey, this is our floor, this is the ground that we're going to start on, and we're going to build this up. What was happening though is that we were doing different other motions and activities, such as some PR moves, email marketing, and then inbound coming in. And so what was happening here is that we were seeing activity for different types of go to market. So some of them were on the enterprise side, some of them were on the franchise side. And so we were kind of reading the room and just kind of seeing what the signals were. I'm like, okay, it looks as though there is an opportunity here. Let's kind of test it. So instead of us shifting, it was more of like, we're going to keep focusing on what's helping pay the bills, keep the lights on, and then kind of paying attention to this. And we kind of put a little, I guess a little bait out there. So one way of explaining this is like, if we were getting, franchise leads coming in, they might be franchisees. But then what we would do is like, hey, we noticed that you're part of a larger franchise group. There's like 100 locations. Do you have access to your VP of whatever? And so what would happen is they'd give us an introduction to those folks. And we would notice that we had a market like fit for these organizations that needed some sort of, help with our service. And so really the best way I can explain this is like focus on what makes you great and successful. If you see signals from the marketplace that you're like, hey, this is kind of like happening and we're not even trying to do this, we should kind of investigate this a little bit more and then start kind of designing something out of it. Don't, move your entire team over your focus. It's more of like just kind of reading the room, checking your signals out to make sure that it's the right move to go after.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is good. This is really good. So, you've mentioned it at least once about predictable revenue, right?
Mhm.
Like, and obviously that's what we all want. We all want
Yeah.
the descriptions. We all want predictable revenue. So what does that actually look like in practice for growing a business to business company?
So, when I say predictable revenue, what I want to make sure is that we don't think that predictable revenue is going to be guaranteed revenue. What it
Yeah.
is
Okay.
that what we're trying to create here is more of like, hey, when we do these actions like this, and this, we pull these levers, we get these results. So a great way of looking at this is like, is your CAC going to be consistent? Is your CAC going up and down every single month? And so, if you're able to create consistency with your CAC of like, say, let's call it $500, for every acquired customer, then that in that case, you can say, okay, we know over the past 3 or 4 months, our CAC has been averaging this. Some months maybe a little bit more, some months a little bit less, but it's on average this. That gives you an opportunity for predictability. Those are things that investors want to see. Those are things that the company and the CEO want to see. So that's like one way of kind of creating that predictability. Another one is just like knowing where your stages are, what you close. So like if you're bringing in 100 leads and then you're able to get 50 of those people to go to like say like an MQL, and then maybe 25 of those people go to an SQL. This is just hypothetical numbers right now, but you start seeing these consistency patterns and you're saying like, wow, every time we have an SQL, we're closing at 60%. What are these characteristics that these people have? And so you're analyzing that data. So that's where I call it like predictable revenue or predictable pipeline, because you know where the stages of growth are, and all you're trying to do is just find those little messages or things that are kind of firing, saying, hey, this is a trigger, pay attention to this. And then you start finding the characteristics of those folks and you find more of those people.
Yeah. You can see in the flow of like what's working, what's not working, what to look for,
Yeah.
what's broken. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So let's say you were sitting across from a founder right now doing $1 million to 3-5 million, and they feel stuck and overwhelmed and unsure what to prioritize next. What's the first question you'd ask?
That's a good one, because a lot of the times I see this a lot, and I want to know where their revenue is coming from. What are they closing like in their sleep? What are they like, hey, anytime we have this kind of person coming in and they have these characteristics and they have these kind of problems and these sort of things, we can close this in our sleep. We can have the worst salesperson and they close them. We could have the worst funnel and we close them. And so it's really about just finding out what is currently working. And so I think it's a lot of the times I see that where founders are like, well, I want to try this and we want to do this and we want to get into this. We need to just get narrowed down on what's really working and just almost towards boring, and I'm not saying that business should be boring, but there should be a sense of like, every time we do this, it's always going to work. Like in football terms, if you can tell the other team like, hey, we're going to run this play and you get the yards that you're going to say you're going to get every single time, you can't stop it. Like that's what you want to kind of create in business. And so what I would kind of say to that, CEO or founder is really like, let's start doubling down on what we know for a fact is working. And then let's start finding ways how we can exploit that and then get into other channels that allow us to kind of like double down on those areas too.
Yeah, I love it. Whenever you get yourself in a situation where it's like, if I give you $1, I get 15 back. Like you're like, how many dollars can I give you? Like,
exactly. Because then you're playing the game of like, I can spend all day long. You're no longer wondering if you're going to close a deal. It's just like, it's really like, at what point is your funnel internally going to break? And you're going to want to see what's going to happen there. Like if you double spend, is that going to break your operational pieces that you have going on? And if it is, how could you fix it? And those are levers that you can pull, and it's okay to do that. But again, like I would ask that to a founder as well too. But before we get to that point, let's figure out what's really working. And then let's figure out how much more money can we dump into this or how much more resources can we put into this and see what would break. You'll probably have an idea, but then you just want to kind of push the envelope a little bit.
Man, that's great. That's great. This has been really fun, Javier. I got one bonus question for you. That's one I've been asking a lot lately. A big piece of what we do is branded merch. And so I've been taking the opportunity to learn from some of the best marketers I get to talk to. What's the best branded merch experience you've been a part of, whether it's been giving or receiving?
Mine's going to be a little different. So I basically did several years ago, we did a conference that was in our backyard in Denver. And I got hired on to help kind of put on this, to help, get our team get ready for this conference. And so I was new to the industry and was like, all right, how do I get folks to our booth to be interested? So what I started doing is like, we all get these emails like, hey, come see us at, booth 246. No one cares about your booth. No one cares about talking about, those things. But if you start finding ways to kind of get people interested in what you're doing, it's a little different. So what I started doing is one of the things that we sent a flip-flop, literally a flip-flop in a big yellow envelope that said, it was kind of like labeled a certain way. And there was a nice letter inside that had, letterhead, and we signed it. And we just said, we want trying to get our foot in the door and a little message. So it was just a little creative way. And then another time we would send is, it was in Denver. This is our backyard. So I know, some restaurants and things to go do. So it was like 24 things to do in Denver. It was like, you can go eat here, go to golf, go this, do that, etc.
I like
go
that
shopping in these areas. We had a logo in there. And then we said, hey, come visit us in booth 246. And so we also emailed that. So that was another way of kind of like branding ourselves in a different way. Mind you, this is a space and facility services. So it's very like blue collar, just, different. So we had to look, think differently about this. And then another piece that we did was we sent out golf balls that were branded, and it was packaged nicely. It's just really nice. And then we sent it out to them. We said, hey, bring this golf ball, and if you sink a putt, at our booth, you can get a chance to win some headphones. So we did other activities throughout this, but what I'm getting to is that all these little touch points that had branding on our stuff, but wasn't necessarily saying like, hey, look what we have, and I'm giving this free merch, or I'm not saying those are bad, but what we were trying to do was just kind of like position ourselves differently. Folks were showing up with flip-flops. They were showing up with golf balls. They were showing up with like, all right, what do I do? But it was a fun way of like getting interaction with folks to kind of see what you can kind of do with what's out there.
Yeah, I think those are all really good. And it's funny, I mean, when you provide value in any way, whether it's something creative like that, actually the restaurants in Denver, I think that you're providing value, and all of a sudden those are things that build trust, right?
Yes.
Those are things that, and so those are things that we've had success with too. So I appreciate your perspective on this, Javier. So thank you so much. This has been really, really fun.
Awesome. No, I appreciate it. This has been great too.
Yeah. And I tell you what, this has been really fun. Where can people find more information about you?
A couple of places. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can take a look at my profile there. I'm probably the only Javier Lozano Jr. So you can find me on there. And then you can also go to my website. You can go to bouldermediasolutions.com. And so if you have any questions about, what I've been working on in the past or, about this episode, love to kind of answer and help out. But those are the two places I kind of hang out the most.
That's awesome. All right. Well, this has been really, really fun, really informative. You got my wheels turning, Javier. We'll have to do it again sometime. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirby. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to your team.
Yeah,
or to your audience. I'm sorry.
Well, both. Hopefully the team is listening too. So you're good. You're good. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.